Welcome back. Well, today is Thursday, and that means it's time to throw it back for another Throwback Thursday.
Joining us this morning, as always, to tell us about another historical trip, is Lori Kent with the Local Lou podcast. So yes, we heard you went on a bit of a trip recently.
Yeah, this is a Local Lou on the road. I got to go to Pierre for the South Dakota State Historical Society. They have a history conference every year, and I actually had never been to Pierre, and I don't know Pierre's history, so I thought this would be a great time to explore their history through historical markers. So I went to 3 different locations. I went to the Capitol, I went to La Frambeau nature area, and then there's an old railroad depot in Fort Pierre that had a bunch of historical markers. And so that's where I explored this history. So in 1804, Lewis and Clark, the Corps of Discovery, they actually come to the area that's going to be Pierre, and they spend quite a bit of time there, like about a week, which during that Corps of Discovery trip, that's a pretty long time. They make camp, they do a lot of things, and it's interesting because Thomas Jefferson does the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. He buys this huge swath of America from France for about 4 cents an acre, which is really a steal of a deal, but also kind of a steal because it wasn't their land to sell. So it's Lewis and Clark, their journey was about exploration and discovery. They're writing down nature and animals and things that they're seeing and reporting it back. They're not doing treaties. They're not doing removal acts. So they do run into Native Americans along the way, but they are doing a lot more PR for America than they are anything else. So Lewis and Clark, they actually are kind of maybe a little lackluster on the whole prairie thing. When they first see it, they're like, oh,
it's the prairie.
More grass. This is great. But once they hit the middle of the state, there's a little bit more topography going on. There's a lot of wildlife. And they end up being really impressed by this wildlife. They see buffalo. They kill their first buffalo in South Dakota. And then they see herds of buffalo, and they're just like, wow, this is amazing. They see their first prairie dog, and they call them barking squirrels, which, I mean, it's not wrong.
Not wrong.
It's not wrong.
No. I would beaver kind of size-wise, but sure.
Yeah. And so they do a lot in the Pierre area. But so then how does it get settled? Well, in the late 1700s, fur trappers are there. The Missouri River is full of furry critters, which means the fur trappers want to be there to capture all that income. And so the fur trappers are French, and they start to settle the area. In 1817, Joseph La Frambeau sets up the first fur trading post. And this starts what's going to be a 50-year thing about fur trading, where the area is one of the biggest fur trading pieces of America going on, which is huge for us. I mean, when you want to get a place up and running, you need some commerce. And so we definitely had that. And so the fur trading that's going on, which means we're going to get fur trading posts. It means we're going to get forts. It means we're going to get railroads. It means we're going to get settlers. That's how the whole area gets going. So in the 1860s, the Dakota Territory is formed, and that's what's eventually going to be the state of South Dakota, which starts in 1889. And then how do we get to be Pierre? How does Pierre get to be the capital? In 1890, it's voted on. But people are still just like, are we sure? So,
I think was it like Huron was maybe a question mark?
Huron, Mitchell, Sioux Falls, Aberdeen, a lot of things were in the running. When we were Dakota Territory, Yankton was our capital, but they definitely wanted something more central. And so they do pick Pierre time and time again, and they end up being like, okay, I guess this is happening. So they start to build a building, and they do a wood one at first, because maybe they're still unsure, I don't know, but in 1910, the Renaissance Revival building, the Capitol building that's there now, is first opened. And so that's a huge, amazing, beautiful building. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C., just being there in front of this building makes you want to go back to Washington, D.C. It's absolutely stunning. They also have a Trail of Governors, which has all the former governors in these life-size statues with little plaques that tell you about their life, which is another great way to explore.
A great find for you.
Yes, definitely. So then I do have to end with a question. So we have Pierre is obviously originally French and then American. And I'm saying it like Pier 1 Imports, but like, is it Pierre?
Or Pierre.
Huh.
Do you remember?
I don't know if I want to answer on live
know,
TV.
right.
We might be
We
getting
might
some
start a
comments.
debate.
Controversy.
That might start a little bit of controversy here.
I agree.
But it's just so interesting. I mean, just how cool is it that you have so much rich history, you know, not even in Sioux Falls just, but in the whole state of South Dakota.
Absolutely, and I think it's really cool that you can go to these places and learn the history just from the historical markers. Then you can go off on your own and figure out more of the details, but it's a great place to start.
Do you feel like you got to see everything in Pierre,
No.
or you want to go back?
You wanna go back.
I definitely
We'll have
want
to
to
go back. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll do a Dakota News Now local.
There you go.
Road
Yeah,
trip.
on the road. Take us with you. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, so people want to learn more. How can they do so?
Yeah, you can go to localloopodcast.com.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Lori.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
And
you.
we'll be back after the break.